another episode of Monday Motions. So I was in high school, and I had a teacher who kind of annoyed me. He was just a real quirky guy. He taught some random classes, but I took this drafting class from him, kind of basic architecture drawing, weird high school class, but he had the training to offer that. Anyway, so I take this class and learn some cool things about drawing and math and just all the different things connected in with that. We had this big final test, and he made this real big deal about how, as he handed out this test, how we needed to read the directions, make sure you read the directions. And I looked at the test, and it made sense to me. It was pretty straightforward, and I understood the topic pretty well. So I just dove in, answered the questions, and handed it back in. And he looked at it, and he said, "Okay, you flunked the test." And I was like, "What? Are you serious? You didn't even have time to grade it. How can you possibly know that?" And he held it up, and he said, "Read the directions. You didn't read the directions." And I read them again, and apparently I hadn't read them well, because there was some little technicality hidden in there where it said that, if we were going to pass the test, we needed to skip question 2 or something silly like that. It was some little weird minutia he had put in the directions to make sure that if we didn't read it, we would fail the test. It was just this trick test he was giving us to teach us a lesson. And at the moment, I thought it was just super stupid. I was not impressed with his teaching. I was not impressed with the lesson. I think he let us take the test over or something, but just kind of a weird guy. Anyway, the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that the lesson he was trying to teach me was a lesson I really needed to learn, and that was this. It's not very easy for us to be present in life, is it? We're distracted, we're pulled to the future, we're pulled to the past, we're pulled in a million different directions because of busyness, and when we are not present, when we're not mindful, that can cause problems, even as simple as flunking a test. So, in Nehemiah, there's a lot of crazy things in this book, but in chapter 9, there's this explanation or description of the children of Israel when they were in the desert after leaving Egypt. So God's just freed them from slavery. He's done these crazy acts of redemption for them, miracles, things that they haven't just read about. They've watched them in person, right? They watched these plagues happen. They've watched the Red Sea open up as they walked through on dry land and watched it close down on their enemies, and those dead bodies of the people that wanted to murder them and take them back into slavery wash up on the beach. So this is not theory for them. This is life that they're living. And yet this is what Nehemiah 9:17 says. It says that they refused to obey and were not mindful of the wonders that God worked among them. And it says because of that, because they weren't mindful, because they weren't aware, because they weren't willing to obey, Nehemiah says that they set up for themselves a leader that would take them back to Egypt. This moment of betrayal for the gift of leadership Moses has given them and God has given them through Moses, they choose their own leader and rebel and want to go back to slavery. It doesn't make any sense until we look at why. He says they weren't willing to obey, which was part of it, but he also says they were not mindful of the acts that God worked among them. Is it possible that we're missing out on the magic of life because we're putting out our root system into the past or into the future or into the life around us, but just into busyness, just rushing through the magic of the things that God is doing for us in our lives? The magic that just fills life, because God is a good and kind God and has filled life with all kinds of wonder and magic, that we walk by that, we rush by that, not even aware of the amazing things that are taking place in the present. There's a term, mindfulness, that's become real popular in culture at the moment. And some people are, I suppose, understandably nervous about it because it does have some links to Buddhism, to a different religion than some of us follow. And yet I think that we cheat ourselves out of the reality that mindfulness is talking about, that the Bible itself talks about it. It's simply this. It simply means that we are intentionally present in the moment. That's it. You don't have to practice any sort of mysticism. You don't even have to do breathing exercises. It doesn't have to be connected to anything. But the reality that all of those things are reaching for is something that we should all be reaching for, and that is to be intentionally present in the life that God has given us, in the moment, now, not distracted by the past, longing after some long gone past that probably wasn't even that good anyway. And even if it was, it doesn't matter, it's gone. Or wasting our energy on the future. If I only can get here, if I can do this, if I can do that. Or again, just through busyness, something that we as Americans, I think, struggle with maybe more than other parts of the world, that we just put so much energy into achieving that sometimes we miss out on the very things that we really want the most, just to be present in the magic of life. And so the challenge for us is to be mindful, is to be intentionally present. And I don't know what that means for you, but for me it means sometimes just stopping and intentionally taking a few deep breaths. Maybe it's stopping a task and going out on your porch, or going out for a walk around the block at work. And if you're the kind of person that thinks, I don't have time for that, that's just foolish, you're the person that needs it more than the next guy does, honestly. And I would challenge you to take a moment to not just rush and rush and rush, but to stop and be present and look around at the magic of life. Simple things we rush past, a tree growing, the breeze on your face, watching some people talk and laugh in a distance, just have a conversation, two strangers. To watch the amazing things around us that we have built, that God has given us the ability to make in a city or on a farm, watching things grow. It could be anything. In the moment where you are right now, to stop and intentionally be present in the life God has given you. That's it. That's mindfulness. And so as we do that, we connect in with this beautiful thing that the Bible says is the greatest gift that God gave us, life. That he would literally give up his own life to die so that we could have life, to have eternal life, to have life forever, right? If we can't even stop and be present in our life in this moment, what makes us think we would ever be happy in eternity? God is present now. He calls himself Yahweh, the I am. He doesn't say I was or I will be. He says I am. God is present with us in this moment. And if you do follow a religion like Buddhism or more of just a modern, kind of like try to like get your life together sort of thing, those aren't bad, but they don't offer any hope because you find yourself in the present, in the moment, but that's it, right? And that's better than rushing through. That's better than that at least. But it still can leave us feeling stuck when we're in a moment, in a situation where we can't fix the things that we wish we could fix. And we breathe and we do what we can. And yet sometimes we need hope to connect in with that present moment as well. And that's the beauty of the religion of Jesus, because he challenges us to be present in this moment, in this now. And yet he promises something even greater than that when we're willing to do that. There's a story of a woman named Corrie ten Boom. Her family were all put in concentration camps in Europe when they were caught in Amsterdam, or Haarlem, close to Amsterdam, hiding Jewish refugees in World War II. So Corrie ends up in this camp with her sister, and these horrible things happen. She basically gives up on her faith in God and in humanity, and yet her sister just keeps going. She trusts God completely. She's full of joy in a concentration camp. It makes no sense. And one day, Corrie is just kind of bemoaning life around her, and her sister looks at her and says, we need to be grateful. This is our life we've been given. We need to be grateful for everything. And Corrie looks at her sister and says, how can you possibly be grateful? Are you grateful for everything? Are you even grateful for these fleas in this room? And her sister stopped and said, yeah, I'm grateful. And she stopped and she prayed and thanked God. Thank you for these fleas. This is my life, and I will find and choose to be intentionally present in it and be grateful to God, even in a concentration camp. Mind-boggling. And Corrie was kind of blown away in that moment as well. It wasn't too long later when they realized that their barracks was the only one that wasn't being searched by the guards, and they were allowed to have regular Bible studies with these Bibles they'd smuggled in with the people in this big room with all these other women. And they wondered why. They asked around kind of subversively, didn't want to admit what was going on, and yet they finally figured out why. The reason those guards didn't come to their barracks was because of the fleas. That God could literally use something so annoying and obnoxious as fleas to bring them a level of peace and freedom in a place like a concentration camp. She thanked God for her moment, for her life, knowing that not only, the Bible in Matthew 6 says, don't be anxious about the future. Today has enough trouble of its own, right? Today, sufficient is the trouble for today is what it says, right? But she knew that there was more than that. The Bible also promises us that not only is the trouble sufficient for the moment, we just need to kind of face that and not worry about other things. God says that His grace is sufficient for us. So may you find a way to be intentionally present in your life today, in this moment, as you're watching this now, to stop, to take a breath, not to try and find a quieter place or a more peaceful place, but look at life directly in the face. Even if it's something as rough as what Corey and her sister were going through, to believe that we can be present and find joy even there, especially given the fact that God has promised us that His grace is sufficient.